Morning, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. I'm Laura Milojevic. I'm the Director of Marketing and Business Development at Simplify Solutions. Today, we're excited to have our awesome Simplify team for our Ask the Experts webinar. So, giving you guys a chance to ask any and all questions that you have. I know a lot of times we don't get a chance to address them all. So, opening up this platform to engage with you is important to us, and we thought would be helpful to you. So I will hand it over to our managing partner, John Essig, and let him do a quick intro about Simplify.
Great. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Simplify is an SAP Silver implementation services partner focused on analytics, consolidations, as well as planning and financial reporting. Our leadership team, most of our consultants, have 15 plus years of experience within the consulting area in this area, as well as on the client side. Have a deep knowledge of the SAP technology stack, as well as best practice from a process consulting perspective. So we commonly act as really trusted advisors and partners to the companies that we work with. So who is Simplify? So like I mentioned earlier, it's what we specialize really, planning, consolidations, analytics. Our number one company goal is 100% referenceable customers. We're really kind of like a small boutique accounting firm. We're really focused on this space. This is all that we do, right? We're headquartered in Chicago. We do business all across the U.S. We kind of have a focus strategically on the U.S. and Midwest and Northeast regions. Drilling in a little bit more specifically from an SAP product stack perspective, we work with SAP Analytics Cloud back since the original beta testing 6 years ago, very early adopter of that solution set, many referenceable customers. Work on SAP BW, HANA, Data Warehouse Cloud, SAP integration, and then as well as the on-premise solutions, SAP BPC and Business Objects. So we deliver implementation services, training, staffing, and managed services. So we have customers that, if they have turnover, they need someone to fill in and backfill a controller role or backfill a BI director role. That's something that we assist companies with commonly as well, especially as it relates to SAP technology stack. So we really are specialized in our space. We're experts. SAP commonly engages us to actually build their own workshops, demonstrations, and produce events in our space, right? Specifically, we're a go-to partner for anything SAP Analytics Cloud and BPC. So most of our consultants, as well as our leadership team, have that business background with CPAs and MBAs who have been on the client side before, running the BI team, running the FP&A team, and again, can bring not only the technology expertise, but also the process expertise. They've implemented hundreds of models, right? Our focus on referenceable clients, this is just an example subset of some of those customer testimonials. And really, again, this is not only for our leadership, but for our consultants day-to-day on the ground is their number one focus is customer success. This is what makes us successful as a small focused firm. We get a lot of our business through these references. Not only that, but with our focus on this space, we've built out over a dozen prepackaged different solutions to help companies get off the ground and up and running with analytics, financial reporting, different planning applications, training and modernization to help get quick value with SAP technology stack. If you're interested in this more, we have a lot of this information published actually right out on our website. All right, so we're going to jump into. We have a number of questions that have been captured up front that we're going to go through with the team. We'll start by just doing quick introductions with Beth and Eric, and then Eric and Lauren will walk us through the questions that we have laid out for today. So Beth, you want to start by introducing yourself?
Sure, thanks, John. Hello, everyone. My name is Beth McBreen. I am a solution director here at Simplify Solutions. And really my focus, probably I've been working with EPM solutions, primarily business planning and consolidation, or what you know as BPC, back since 2003, where as John mentioned, many of us come from both the corporate side as well as consulting. Back then was more within the corporate finance, FP&A, working with the BPC product, and over at least 12 years have been on the consulting side, design, architecture, project management for our solutions like BPC as well as SAC. Analytics Cloud, probably my focus has been on that for the past 5 years, really kind of understanding the ins and outs, the pros and cons, and that's part of the reason why I'm here today, to kind of help answer any questions that we can as you start to evaluate Analytics Cloud for your company. So thank you. Eric?
Yes, thank you, Beth. John, are you changing the slide? So yes, hello everyone. I'm Eric Blondin. I'm responsible for everything pretty much platform and technologies at Simplify. So obviously my background is more on the technical end of things, although I've been working with business professionals for over 20 years now, mainly implementing BI solutions and some planning solutions as well. So the technologies I've worked on, obviously through all this, is BW, BPC, Analytics Cloud. A bit similarly to Beth, I've been investing a lot of time on this solution over the past 5 years, figuring out what it can do, what it cannot do. And also one of my subjects in the past year was really figuring out, if you have business objects, is SAP Analytics Cloud really an alternative you can really capitalize on going forward? And this is really something I've been helping some customers figure out over the last few months. Aside from that, when we talk about Analytics Cloud, we talk about visualizations. So understanding what the visualization standards are in the market are really one of my core focuses right now, to really, it's not only about showing data, is showing it in a way that people will really understand it. John?
Great, thanks, Eric. And do also want to mention, Eric led the team last year that won the SAP Analytics Cloud Planning Hackathon. So pretty cool. Very smart guy, just not on the BI side, but also on the planning side of the house too. At Simplify, that same hackathon, we placed in second place there. My background has been on the planning, financial reporting, analytics, consolidation side, implementing for the past decade, doing architecture and project management. Before that, came from a corporate finance background, had my CPA, was running financial planning consolidation system for a company out of the northwest suburbs in Chicago here, which is where I'm located. Also, similar to Beth, for much of my career, I've been focused on the SAP Business Planning Consolidations from a technology perspective. And for the last few years, I've been really then kind of transitioned to the cloud-based application with SAP Analytics Cloud, which I love working with. It's a cool tool. So yeah, looking forward to answering your questions today. And that's it for me.
Thank you, John. So we will now go through the questions that were submitted before the call today. Don't hesitate, if through the call you have a few questions you'd like to add, you can submit it through the webinar chat window, or even you can click raise your hand if you actually want to ask your question verbally once we've gone through the initial questions. Thank you. And I'll let, I'll let Lauren read out the questions.
All right. Question number 1. So it looks like SAC is the current and future roadmap solution for enterprise planning. We're currently using BPC. Can you explain what features and functionality would be better than or an enhancement to our current planning process in BPC?
Okay, I will go ahead and take that one. And certainly I can highlight a few differences that I know are either time savers or just kind of overall enhancements when I look at Analytics Cloud planning really compared to what's been known, within the BPC planning solution. And, before I go into that, since I've worked with BPC for so long, I'll even admit in the beginning with Analytics Cloud, I was a little skeptical to say the least, right? But I'll tell you what, in the last 2 years, with the growth of Analytics Cloud and what they've really added, included as a planning solution, and as an enterprise planning solution at that, it's really, in my mind, starting to actually surpass many of the capabilities that BPC, historically, what you've historically maybe done from a planning perspective in BPC. So just a couple that I think off the top of my head that are differentiators, if you will, is number one, if you have not worked with Analytics Cloud yet, the huge difference is just the inherent functionality of disaggregation. So what I mean by that is really being able to plan at any level, right? So in BPC, you have to either plan at the lowest level. So what are we doing? We're either picking an account, or we're setting up a dummy account, or we're picking a profit center, or we're setting up a dummy profit center. Just so that we can plan at that lowest level, because we don't care, but really we want to be planning at a higher level, or we're creating input IDs. So all of that is kind of messy, can get to be messy in BPC. In SAC, that functionality just is inherent. So I come in, if I want to plan at total expenses, total customers for the entire year, or at a quarter, I can do that. It will automatically take that dollar amount and spread it. It will spread it evenly. It can spread it all to first or last. You can kind of, again, define how you want it spread. Many times companies are spreading it based off of historical trends. So all of that also gives you that functionality. But that is, my mind, huge, because it's always been a little bit of a pain point with some of the other EPM solutions out there. So that would be number one. Kind of getting more specific into planning is the inverse functionality that Analytics Cloud allows you to do. And what I mean by inverse functionality is the term that they use in SAC, but we know in BPC that when we have a calculated member, or we have a member formula, that is a calculation that's done on the fly, or it's a calculated member where I cannot also input, right? I can't enter a number over that. It's going to provide an error to me. So many times you have kind of your KPI accounts, and then you have input accounts. And so again, it can get challenging when you're trying to combine the two and do reporting and elsewhere. In SAC, you actually have the capability to use a calculated account and also then enter it in as an input. So for things like average selling price, cost per ton, like there's different metrics that you want, which normally you're measuring, that's a calculated figure when you're looking at it from an actual perspective. But when you get to budget, you actually want to enter that in as a driver many times. And so you can actually use that same account for both capturing the calculation in your actuals, as well as then entering that driver as your budget. So that is, again, looking from solution to solution, that has been also a nice feature when it comes to, especially when we look at some of the driver-based planning capabilities in SAC. Another one that I like are data actions. So data actions, again, if you're not familiar, would be kind of correlate to data manager packages that we run. And so in BPC, I should say. And so a couple of things that I like better in SAC is that it can be considered, these data actions can just have triggers within the input template. So sometimes you're completing your budget template in BPC, and then you're like, okay, I have to go to data manager, or I have to go back to my process flow, and I have to click on this to run my allocations, or to run my driver-based forecast, and there's a long list of different packages to run. This gives you direct access right on the template, and it's something that any user can do that has access to do it. It's just a widget that you place out there. It doesn't require a lot of customization. So that's pretty nice. And also the flexibility to add these parameters to your data action. So you can basically, you can still do it in BPC as well, but I find that it's a lot easier within kind of the advanced formulas, data actions within SAC to be able to set up, be like, yes, I want to be able to select not just my time, entity, and category, but I want to select my profit center, my cost center, so on and so forth. And I can do that very quickly so that I have all those filters that I can run those calculations on. I guess finally, the last one that I would just wrap up with is just, for me, also looking across solutions, is the ability for the collaboration, really when we're talking about planning, the collaboration, the sharing, and the ease of doing that. The benefit really falls on SAC. You have the ability to easily click on your templates. You can say share or report, and it sends that everything's connected to your email address. So it emails it out to another user. They're able to see it, click on the link, and it pulls it right up, right? We're not logging in and having to refresh and, a lot of these other components that or steps, if you will, that may be required within BPC. So it kind of just makes it a little bit more streamlined from kind of an overall access, collaboration, and kind of just overall sharing and working together with your planning process. So hope that helped answer that question. So Lauren?
Lauren, you may be muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was. What is the difference between the Simplify SAC content and the one delivered by SAP? Is it an add-on?
Okay, I'm going to take this one. So if all of you are familiar with SAC today, you have a lot of the content that's being provided by SAP, some of it with by third-party providers, and it really enables you to start with a complete solution in SAC and capitalize on it to build your solution. If you go through the content on SAC, a lot of them is built obviously for SAP specific solutions. So if it's S4, SuccessFactors, all those solutions from SAP, and typically anything that goes outside of this standard environment, well, you'll actually need to adjust it. On the other end, John talked about it very shortly in his introduction, where the Simplify content is solutions built within the standard SAC tool set as well, but where we started from the actual use case. What do people look for? What do they need in terms of planning, in terms of analytics that SAC can cover? And this is what we build. So in the end, the source of your data is actually quite flexible because we didn't build it for S4, although obviously our expertise is a lot around SAP, so we can easily integrate S4 or ECC data in it. But sometimes your financial data, for example, is not only in SAP solutions. So by building it from a solution perspective first and then going to the source, it's really a different way of looking at how SAC content can be delivered. And second part, it's really content we use when we start working with you, building out an SAC solution. This is really our first step. Let's see what we've delivered already, and this can give you an idea what's the fit gap between this and what you actually need. Quite often with Beth, John, and the rest of the team's expertise, we've really targeted what people are really looking for when they do their financial planning and other subjects. If you actually want a bit more detail on what's in there, one thing that people can do, I forgot to open our website first, but if you go on our website, you can actually come here, you'll see prepackaged solutions, and you can go in overview. And here, you'll actually see all the content that was built by Simplify on different subjects. So you can really, quick start. So you want to look at SAP Analytics Cloud and what can you capitalize on. So some info here: revenue planning, Salesforce Analytics, financial reporting, HR planning, and quite a few others. If I go into one, let's go with financial reporting and performance management. You have a lot of information. What's in here gives you a good overview of what's available there. And this really can be the starting point of any SAC project. And obviously afterward, we can really customize it. In the end, you'll always have some videos as well that really enable you to have a good idea of how this actually can work out. Okay. So I'll hand this back to to Lauren for the next question.
All right. So when planning on S4 data, can I easily send my budget back to S4 through SAC?
Oh, well, I'll take this one again. So actually, this comes back to content again and customization you can do afterward. If you look at the SAC standard content that's been delivered today, you can write back your planning data back to S4. Very specific to S4, there's actually an integration. If you're up, and we're going to talk versions here, if you're up to versions 1809, and there's a service pack requirement, you can push back your planning information from SAC. So you go through the whole SAC planning process. So it doesn't really matter if it's the content delivered by SAP or the ones we work with at Simplify. And then you can feed it back. So all your screens, all your tiles, since you're on S4, you'll be working on Fiori, can really capitalize on all this budget or forecast information you've built in SAC. So it's really a well integrated solution in the end.
Great. Next question. How quickly can an application on SAC be deployed?
Thanks, Lauren. It's John. I'll take this one. So our prepackaged solutions, following kind of a gap fit approach, standing up that standard content for your different analytics or planning use cases, incorporating your data, your reporting structures. Those solutions can all be delivered in under a month, even without SAC today. So we'll help you set up the connections. You can combine multiple sets of those prepackaged solutions. So, for example, we had a customer reach out and say, "Hey, I want number 4 and number 1." So deploying both of those in a 6-week time frame. So, however, that is really deploying the standard content, giving you that value kind of out of the box, that baseline implementation. If you want to take an approach where we really configure the solution to your exact business requirements, an implementation for any one of those kind of analytics or planning areas, may take around 3 months, right? If you're a $5 billion company and you have, 4 different business segments that all want to do things slightly different, the good news is SAC is very flexible, so it can decrease the time to deploy. You may not have to build out targeted applications for all your different businesses like you would in some other solutions. But still, deploying, training, validating data for a larger enterprise company with a number of different businesses within it, maybe for each area, 3 to 6 months, right? So it really depends on the size and complexity of your business as well as how you want to approach it. If you want to deploy the baseline solution, which you're absolutely going to get value out of, you can do that in a handful of weeks, which is, quite impressive versus legacy on-premise solutions, right? We can stand this up pretty quickly, have these solutions pre-built based off of, a decade plus of experience in these different industries. Or you can take that more kind of targeted approach tailored to your requirements.
Great, thanks, Sean. Next question, can I use SAC for consolidations?
I can take this one. And Well, sometimes that can be a loaded question, but I'll do my best. I'll give you my opinion on the answer to this one. According to kind of the SAC roadmap, if you're a company that you're going to be moving to S4 in the near future, SEC reporting, legal reporting is required, then really the solution to explore a little bit further would be the group reporting. In the end, that resides within S4. That's kind of the chosen path for you. As there's many key features, functions that make the whole consolidation process really streamlined within group reporting. However, many companies are more interested in, say, internal or management-based consolidations. Or I've been asked the question, well, what if I need to consolidate my budget, my plan within SAC, including a full financial reporting set, balance sheet, cash flow, P&L. And so the answer, in my opinion, is yes, because really kind of the core capabilities, the core functionality exists, especially now with the advanced formulas and data actions within SAC. So, SAC can, of course, it can translate your currencies, it can perform intercompany eliminations, historical overrides, other balance sheet type calculations for retained earnings. It can run automated cash flow to populate your cash flow statement. So, many of those core components exist within SAC. And so, for that reason, I think it kind of comes back down to maybe an individual case scenario, whether your company and its current process really would fit, within SAC, or if it just would require a little bit more, maybe the complexity is a little bit greater, and in which case you really would want to evaluate something like group reporting instead of SAC. SAP will not, is not saying that SAC is a consolidation tool or solution. That's what they do have the group reporting for. However, just, so that you're aware that functionality does exist, and you can be able to consolidate your budgets, consolidate your plans, and that sort of thing within SAC. So, Lauren?
Great. Okay. Next question. What are the top 3 largest project risks?
I'll take that one. This is John. So number one is data. Certainly, data quality is one of our biggest project risks, right? And if you have a historical solution that is well documented with good data sets, then certainly that can be mitigated. Whenever you're coming from Excel, from an Excel world, right? There's so much flexibility within Excel rules and formulas and if statements that can be applied. That sometimes at a corporate level, you might not even have an understanding of what people are doing in your individual divisions. So certainly data structures, reporting structures, transactional data, all a big risk in every project. And we typically try to mitigate that by scaling up our applications very, very fast, right? So, our goal is in the first week or 2 of a project to have our dimensions, have our applications stood up, have data loaded so that we're already validating data, right? So as consultants, we know this well. If we're not validating data until 3 months into a project, we're going to have a problem. So that's how we look at mitigating that. A second big risk on projects is resource. So when you're deploying a prepackaged solution, kind of deploying standard content, your resource requirements are less on the client side. You do have to validate data, so there has to be a good plan in place to do that. You have to do training, some testing, but the resource requirements are not as heavy. When you're deploying a tailored solution, really tailored to your business requirements, to your specific business needs that are unique in your scenarios, as well as your segments and divisions. That can require more of your time to manage internal resources, coordinate across, do development checks. So upfront in every project, what we try to do is come up with a resource plan that we make sure that from the top down with an organization, you're comfortable committing those resources in that time to the project, and we're over communicating, scheduling ahead of time to mitigate that, right? And so what we found, over many years, and when we don't do that, everybody's got a day job, right? So very, very typical, you got to keep the lights on. And a project like this could easily become second priority every single day, which just kind of snowballs, right? So it's really important to have a good upfront plan in place that everyone can commit to before you engage on a project to ensure success. So that's really, for us as consultants, risk number 2. So data, resources on the client side. And then risk number 3, I see as the biggest risk, is decision making, right? So you may have a great on-the-ground team, you may have a leadership team that is not available or isn't also not able to dedicate that time, so that kind of goes along with that resource plan. Make sure you know what the expectations and roles are of the people are on the project going in, but need to ensure that the project has a proper framework on a week-by-week basis, on a bi-weekly and a monthly basis, to make the decisions in a timely manner to ensure that you're able to progress in the right direction throughout a project, right? And how do we do that? We have weekly dev check-ins, right? We have weekly project management check-ins. We have bi-weekly steering committee meetings. So that's the decisions that, hopefully your team on the ground is empowered, and they should be empowered to make the day-to-day decisions on the solution that you're developing. But for the decisions that you're not sure about, you need a forum to bubble them up to the leadership team and proper paperwork and documentation to drive key decisions and make sure the project is heading in the right direction. So that's the third risk that we see on all these projects. They're going to first data and resources, and then decision making. So whenever you start off a project, with focus on those things, because if you're mitigating those big risks and you're aligned up front, chances are that you're going to have a successful project, barring something, really unforeseen, right?
All right, great. Thanks, Sean. Next question, can SAC be implemented on Azure instead of AWS?
Okay, I'm going to take this one. It's Eric here. So actually, I'm going to take a detour to answer this one. This is a very specific. We're not SAP, so obviously today, SAC being a cloud solution, it's really through SAP that you can really manage where your actual SAC instance is implemented. And today, you may or may not know, but if you order SAC from SAP today, it will be on Amazon Web Services, so AWS. So you order SAC, you won't see anything about it, but in backend, it's on Amazon. And a lot of customers, though, are on Amazon. A lot of them are investing on Azure. And I know this is not the first time I've seen that question, where is it possible to have SAC in the same data centers at the same place that my other platforms are on the Microsoft side? So this is something that SAP has on its roadmap. And the detour I'm going to take is actually, I'm not sure anyone has seen how SAP has reorganized how we can go have a look at their roadmap. I have it here. I'm just going to refresh. I don't know. Some of you may remember we often have seen those PowerPoint slides, but nowadays SAP has really refreshed and updated the look and feel of their roadmaps, so you can really go and see as what's planned for each quarter and then in the future even. And you can search it by solution. So here I pre-search by SAP Analytics Cloud. So I have everything that's currently planned in SAP's roadmap. One click on it, there's a big disclaimer at the top. You should click on it because this is what they're planning today. Obviously, things move around, and that was a challenge with those PDF files that were on SAP's website. Is the moment there was a change, those PDFs weren't updated all the time, so you weren't really current as to where SAP was going into updating all those functionalities. But what we can see here is there's a lot of stuff that's currently being worked on by SAP. Some of it is already available. They've delivered it in the solution. Some of it is still working on for Q2. One thing to keep in mind when you're on SAC, because one of the big advantages I find also from a technology and platform perspective is that you no longer need to manage service packs, update your OS. Is it installed on Unix, on Windows? What am I supposed to do? Okay, I need to plan an update twice a year because there's so many new stuff. I'm always going to have IT to work on it, to update it. Analytics Cloud, being cloud-based, all those updates are done automatically by SAP, and you just get a warning. That weekend, you will get an update, and it's done quarterly. So every quarter, you get all those new functionalities delivered in your platform. And if you have a test environment, you can even see them as they're being delivered every 2 weeks in your environment. So today, for example, the Q2 release did go through, but although a few of them are still in yellow status, so they weren't delivered in Q2 2020 in the quarterly release. So hopefully those that are still a yellow will be available when they do the Q3 release in August. But if you have a test system and they're being delivered, let's say this week, you could go and test those. And that's one of the advantages also we have as a partner. We have a test system all the time. We get all the new functionalities and you test the beta functions that are being delivered through this roadmap. So we're really able to have a look at it and help you figure out, okay, is that really going to help me? I didn't go with SAC, for example, because there was that basic functionality that was missing in my case, very specific for very specific need, and it's planned. So is it there? What does it look like? And this is somewhere else where we can clearly help you.
Great. Thanks, Eric. I'm trying to use SAC for financial dashboards using BPC as my data source. My BPC model is a year-to-date model for consolidations. And I haven't been able to get SAC to reorganize or recognize or transport it into a periodic value. Is there a way to do this?
Hi, it's Beth. I'll take this one. This is actually a pretty specific question, but I've heard it come up a couple times in the past few months. I have a couple thoughts around it, and maybe it's even like a broader best practice, but to be very specific to answer this question, that is a limitation right now, right? When we import models from BPC, when we import the data on a scheduled process, it recognizes how the data is stored, and in which case many consolidation models in BPC are stored at a year-to-date value. What we've done as a workaround is to, actually I've seen it done both ways. So you can load the data in the year-to-date format and perform ultimately a squeeze. That can be done within SAC, but really probably the more streamlined way, the better way, the more effective approach that we've found is to do that same process, but do it in BPC first. Basically stage your data the way that, you know, if it needs to come in as periodic values, you can go ahead and perform that calculation or that squeeze, if you will, between the two year-to-date months, and post that to a separate version, for example. That then gives you a version to transport or to import up to SAC that will have the periodic values that you're looking for. And then SAC will obviously have the inherent functionality to provide year-to-date and such. But I think from just kind of a broader best practice, I think that holds true for really anything that we're looking at pulling into SAC that requires maybe some customizations. At least, you know, with some of the solutions that some of the source data solution, you know, where the source data resides, if it is easier, more effective to be able to produce what that data output needs to be, We found that not just with BPC, but even within, say, BW queries or other, make those customizations within those tool sets and then import it to SAC. We've had probably the best luck in reporting in our reports, our templates, so on and so forth, within our dashboards, within SAC, when we take that approach. So yes, unfortunately, there is probably one additional step that you will have to do within your BPC environment in order to push that data accurately, appropriately, how SAC can handle it. But then again, just from an overall best practice approach, that should maybe be the standard, you know, that you go ahead and make those changes within source data systems like a BPC or a BW query or other in order to stage and prepare the data first before importing to SAC. So, Lauren?
Great, awesome, Beth, thank you. Next question, what is the typical project cost?
Thanks, Lauren. I'll take that one. So yeah, this is definitely a annoying answer of it depends, you know, for sure. So just like if you're, you know, building a house, right? You can build a tiny house, you can build a mansion, you know, with multiple wings on it. So you know, the price can vary significantly. But you know, to answer very simply, when looking at like our prepackaged solution concept, for example, which you can deploy that standard concept in a few weeks, you know, all of those solutions start at a baseline of $25K, which includes standing it up for your data, for your reporting structures, validation, gap fit analysis, and then training and deployment. So very cost effective with those solutions, again, that have been built based off of a decade plus of experience in all those different planning and analytics areas. Like I was saying earlier, you can combine, you know, multiple solution sets together. You know, if you wanted to do sales and margin planning and financial reporting or pipeline analytics, right? Combine those together and deploying those, you know, a quick couple month project, you know, could be twice that amount, right? You could look at, you know, targeted implementations, 3 to 6 months, you know, per area, like I was mentioning earlier. And essentially the consultant run rate is about 40K for a specialized firm like us. So that includes a full-time dedicated development lead, a project manager that's flexible, that doesn't have to be, you know, dedicated full-time if it's not needed. So for smaller implementations, you know, the project manager and architect who provides oversight kind of as needed alongside with that lead developer. And then we have a technical resource who will help set up integration with S4 or other sources, and that could take, you know, a couple days, or that could be, you know, a few weeks, just all depending on the number of data sources you have. So obviously varies widely, but you know, you can start in any one of these targeted areas, you know, very cost effectively too. So.
Great, thank you, John.
So, Lauren, are there any questions or anyone raised their hands while we were entering the ones that were provided beforehand?
I don't see any right now. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, please send them in the questions box or raise your hand. But as of right now, I don't see any.
Okay, so yes, I guess everyone who had some questions did submit them beforehand. So I'm actually,
exactly.
While we're waiting for questions that may come up, there's a little something, there's an announcement that SAP made recently that I found would be quite interesting to call out during this as the expert. It's the new 90 days free trial. I don't know, most of us who have at least followed SAC over the past few years, we've all seen the 30-day trial. It was nice. We can do some reports, some dashboards. But one of the big announcements, it's not only that it's 90 days, it's that even through that 90 days free trial, we now have the possibility of also building planning models. which was not possible through the trial account before. It was only reporting. So being able to have 90 days to build a planning model, in my mind, for people like us, where we want to come and help customers who don't know yet, is SAC really what I want? We can literally spend the first 3 months without buying a license, accompanying you, showing you what can be built, how to build it, and really we can literally set up the initial process, and you can experience it yourselves within your company through that free trial and play around with the solution. And if after 90 days you really did not like it, well, that's it. You only invested a little bit of time to get it to work. Whereas if you did like it, you're actually able to export and capitalize on some of this once you decide to really go forward and start building a solution on SAC. John, Beth, I don't know if you have any additional comments on that 90-day trial and how you see it really helping us and helping our customers mainly in implementing SAC.
Yeah, Eric, I would say along with that, something that we're doing that's kind of unique at Simplify is helping customers who know they have a need for capital planning, know they have a need for performance reporting for one of these different application areas that they really want to attack, and they may be able to get some budget approved, but are just having difficulty kind of getting things rolling, right? So we've actually been offering solution sets along with that trial that allow customers to try out one of our different prepackaged solutions, and at the conclusion of that trial, have access to the environment for a month and have the option to purchase. So looking at these different targeted areas, working with customers that are really strategic, potential partners for us, that is something that we have offered, and we're executing with a company local in Chicago right now for performance management. Right, we're at that conclusion. We're reading that out to their CAO next week. Again, with their data, with their structures, they're kind of having the ability to participate in that trial and then make that decision at the conclusion as to whether or not they want to purchase. So another good potential starting point in addition or alongside SAP's trial. We're all trying to get creative in unique times, right? To figure out how we can partner best with our prospects and customers.
Okay, so Lauren, still no questions?
No questions.
I guess we're too good. So I guess if there's no questions, I'm going to bring out the last subject, which I think John and Beth will have a lot of info to discuss about. One thing I hear a lot is how SAC is flexible. It brings so much flexibility in the planning process compared to other solutions on the market, which I won't name, but which you're able to build something and then slowly evolve on it, not having to build silos as you define different planning processes. I don't know, John or Beth, if you can comment on that.
I mean,
yeah, sure. Or go ahead, Beth. No, go ahead.
You probably have more things off the top of your head to share. I think I talked a little bit about, one of the first questions that somebody had submitted was just around like, what's better, from BPC to SAC. And it's probably one of the points I should have covered off, to be quite honest, is kind of the overall, and maybe some of the points that I did make kind of just lend to the overall flexibility of SAC. Specifically being able to go in and, as Eric mentioned, maybe not necessarily have models anymore that are very specific, and then have to have all these silos. There's opportunities for larger models with bigger sets of data that allow us to look at data a little bit differently. The ease of creating these stories, our templates, for planning process, be able to quickly say, I want to view it one way, but it's just a drag and drop to shift everything another way. really kind of, we're not talking about, okay, it takes us a couple hours to revise the template and then, be able to show it in a different view or a different way for, of course, some divisions we're going to plan one way, other divisions may plan a different way. So, I've come across where companies will plan, as I talked about, like that inverse functionality, companies will plan, some will plan at the drivers where they have the build-up units, or they're planning revenue cost and they're getting down to their margin number. But many times another division of the very same, in the same company, they're not exactly streamlined. They're saying, well, no, we plan where we actually plan by our margin, and that actually backs into what our, cost will be. Maybe our revenue is static. So because there's potentially different methodologies or approaches to planning processes within one company, that's, to me, when I see, when I think of flexibility, this is also what I see with Analytics Cloud, because it allows you to have that flexibility. In the past, we would always try and, have a design session like, okay, how can we streamline so everybody's planning the same way? And the reality is that was very difficult to do. The nature of the business, maybe there were different divisions of the business that just operated differently. And so this really allows, SAC allows you to, maintain those approaches and those different methodologies, but really, harmonize it within one planning process. So I don't know, John, did you have additional things to add? Sorry, those are my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, really, really well said. I think, agree on all those points. I think for me, the flexibility of SAP Analytics Cloud versus historical tools is really key, right? It's, a big part of the reason, along with analytics capabilities, that I really like working in this tool. And we're able to deploy very, very quickly. It's definitely a business-centric tool, so easy to adopt. And then, there's just things you can do within the solution that you couldn't do with legacy tool sets, right? So with an S-based type solution or a BPC type solution, the flexibility is just a huge differentiator and drives a lot of values for companies. So I definitely, if you get a chance, a good example of that, if you look at our prepackaged solutions, there's a demo available right on our website. You click on our sales planning prepackaged solution, and you can watch that video. And it shows, in a hypothetical company where you have different segments like a retail, e-commerce, wholesale, how you can plan at all these differing levels of details and different approaches without paying consultants, to build 5 targeted models. Not that you couldn't do that, but there's just so much more flexibility available to be able to deploy solutions for all your different businesses, without having to sacrifice, pay $2 million or just not build what they want because there's so many differing requirements, right? So I encourage you to kind of check out that video. With a historical tool like an S-Base or VPC, right? You'd have to build 5 different models, right? And that costs a lot. So would check that out when you get a chance. It's one of the examples of kind of that flexibility in play. All right. So that being said, I think we're ready to wrap up here. Thank you all for joining us today. If you do have questions that you'd rather email to us, feel free to email us any questions, or reach out. We could set up a one-on-one conversation with one of the experts on our team. We can help with your individual scenarios. But other than that, hope you all have a great week, and thank you for joining, and thanks for all the effort from the folks on the call to make this a great and engaging session. All right, so with that said, we'll go ahead and wrap up. We'll post a copy of the video to YouTube for reference, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.